Today's Dynasty Beginner's Guide, we're going to dive you through everything you need to know from coach customization to how to set up your recruiting board to the different type of play options to make your play a little bit more immersive, whether you're kind of new to the series or you're a veteran that's played this in the past. And wrapping it up with how to master the transfer portal, because this year's transfer portal, if you have not heard, is absolutely insane, guys. So by the end of today's video, guys, you're going to know everything you need to know about Dynasty Mode and how to dominate your rebuilds. The first thing you get asked when you begin your Dynasty Mode is what kind of setup do you want? Do you want an offline mode or do you want an online mode? For 90% of the people that don't have a lot of people to play with, you're probably going to do your own rebuilds at your own time. So for this, we're going to pick the offline mode, and then it's going to ask you what kind of roster type do you want? Do you want to do the default or the active roster? And to start off, guys, the default roster is probably good enough for 95% of the player base. At the beginning of the season, preseason, we're in July right now, there's probably no reason to go with an active roster until halfway through the season when things have played out, stars have risen through the depth charts, and you know, they're now big time hype names that you're probably going to want to play with about halfway through the year. This is what the roster would be used for, but at the start, default should be fine for most of you, especially if you're a beginner. Then you set up your dynasty settings, and for me, guys, it's on Heisman mode. Coach firing's normal. Coach speed is normal as well to make it a little bit challenging. If you want to get a quick dynasty mode in, you can also set this to faster so your coach can get XP quicker, and you can do, you know, 1Z, 2Z type of schools if you don't want to build out and drag out a long career of a coach. If you're playing on your own, player edit permission on commissioner only is more than fine. Injury, that's depending on the user, that's up to you. And then the manual progression XP. For the manual progression XP, guys, you have to go all the way down. We'll talk about the wear and tear in just a little bit, but basically it's the team settings, right? So the season experience, if you want full control and league advancement to be manual, then that's how you do that. So the season experience is basically goes down to the team settings. Do you want auto recruiting on or off? If you want it off and you want to manually recruit, that means you have to go through every week and recruit your own players. That's fine. And then you want auto progression of players on or off. And that's a key new feature where you can now go in and edit the guys that are building and rising within your own roster. If you want to do that, and then that's where the penalty comes in at the top, 25%. So for every guy that you upgrade, he's gonna get a 25% penalty on all the XP he would have been able to get. Let's say he goes off, and let's use nice round numbers, he would have got 1,000 XP because he had a hell of a game. 25% would take off 250 of those points that you would have gotten to use to upgrade him. I don't really know why there should be a penalty for that. I think it should be at 0. I think it's just holding people from cheesing on speedsters, things like that. But if the guy earns certain attributes for playing in the game, every time you go up in there and upgrade them, they should be fully rewarded if they're going to do it anyways if you were to play out the full game. This is more for simming. You go in there, guys, you know, played really well, his XP's gone up on defense, and you want to go in there and upgrade him. Why not? Pre-order bonus is off. What I like to play with is 7-minute settings, accelerated clock on, and then 10-minute knockoff. That usually gives me the stats that I'm kind of looking for. You're able to break 200 as a running back on a good day, 300 if you're a good quarterback on a good day. Next thing is your wear and tear system. I am going to make a more in-depth video for what kind of player type you are and with the wear and tear settings that are best for you. But to begin, guys, the only ones you can really, if you really want to go in there and toy with it a little bit to see how it affects it, is the hit stick impact. So if you land a nice hit stick, that'll affect the wear and tear a little bit more or less. That's probably one I would toy with. Cut block, I mean, getting cut kind of sucks. So, I mean, maybe that's one you want to toy with. Impact block tackle. So if dude gets laid out, and then maybe the recovery. So the recovery in between a timeout per play, I feel like that all should be tapered off based on, you know, how it's getting recovered. So let's say, you know, week to week, it's going to have the most amount of recovery that it's going to affect the player. Halftime recovery should be the most, then between quarters, per timeout, and then per play. I feel like that should be nicely tapered. It's not right here right now, so that's one thing I would toy with as well. That's what I'm going to do when I create my own dynasties as well. Next is the transfer portal. You can also set your transfer portal settings, which is kind of crazy. Every team is going to transfer out 20 people every season. You can also do this or move it up, move it down. How many transfers are allowed per team? You can adjust that. So maybe your transfer portal, if it's really loud and really crazy, you can tone it down a little bit. That's one thing that you can do. Also, users and computer chances. I think it's only fair that if the computer's losing 55% of its player transfer chance, we should also be on the same one. That should probably stay the same. And then down at the bottom, auto recruiting, auto progress, and auto coaching progression. So if you want full autonomy of your dynasty mode, you should probably do that. So auto recruiting is if you want to be a little bit lazy and not recruit every single week, you can have that on or off. Even if you have it on, you can still go in there and manage the board and recruit certain players more aggressively if you want, and then it'll do auto for the rest of them. Auto progress players, same thing. If you leave it on, players will naturally progress at the rate that they want to. If you have it off, you go in there and manually upgrade each and every single one of your players. That can get very, very time consuming, especially if you're upgrading like second or third stringers, especially after an off-season training program. Coach auto progression as well, I have that off. Coaching trees, now those are a little bit harder to come by, those coaching points. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, that's one that you might want to look look at as well. Finally, before you jump in, from last year, you can go in there and customize your conferences. For example, let's look at the Big Ten. Big Ten used to be split up into East-West. If you want to kind of do that, hit X or square on the PlayStation and you can set up divisions. You can even name the divisions. How many conference games per division should each team play? Will there be a championship game? Is there protected opponents? How many protected opponents will you be playing? Lucas Oil Stadium as a main place. You can even change it to Mercedes-Benz if you want to. Not that we have a Big Ten team at the Mercedes-Benz, but pretty cool that you can do that. So if you want to toy around with that, you certainly can, and then you advance to select your team. For this, really quickly, big Trojan fan, so we're going to select the USC Trojans, and then you'd select what position you want, and I said coach. And here's where it gets kind of interesting. Customization. You can go in and customize Lincoln Riley based on just the gear, or you can create your own new coach from scratch. For this one, we'll just walk through with Lincoln Riley. This looks very similar. Gives you an offensive scheme, a defensive scheme, where he went to school and you signed the contract. Look, the team's history based on how they played in the years past, and now you're ready to jump in. One thing I want to cover next, once you're already in here, you have to look at your coach abilities. So on the top right, you will see coach's points. Those points are going to be very critical when it comes to upgrading a certain guy. For example, Lincoln Riley is a program builder, but he's also really freaking smart. He built everything on the tactician build. As you can see, he's a scheme guru with an A+ prestige, and within here, guys, scheme guru gives you ratings boost to each position. Obviously, offensively, he's cracked. You're going to see a common theme across Lincoln Riley that receivers and quarterbacks do very well for him. He's boosted those guys like crazy. But you can also go through and boost defensive line, and then I guess you can start seeing the trend of what he likes to boost. Strategist, he boosts his receivers, maxes out his quarterbacks. Every single quarterback that plays for Lincoln Riley almost wins a Heisman. So kind of checks out that he's cracked out at quarterback every time, and that goes for recruiting them and recruiting receivers to go along with those guys as well. As you can see, to unlock certain requirements for certain things, to become an elite recruiter at different positions, I have to sign 2 top 5 recruiting classes. So that would unlock the bottom half of this recruiter tree. And there is a difference because you can see that in the scheme guru, the bottom's already unlocked. But for recruiter, that has not been unlocked. I have to do a certain mission to make sure those requirements are unlocked for becoming an elite recruiter at the bottom. He's a very bottom left kind of guy. That entire bottom left side, strategist, scheme guru, and recruiter are all where he's really good at. So one tip that I have for you is that when you hire coaches, you do exactly what Lincoln Riley did. Look at his offensive coordinator. He goes towards a talent developer, and you go into his tree, as you can see, he's a talent developer. And then you go to defensive coordinator Lance Lynn, and he's an architect and a motivator, all on the right side. So that is a big tip that I would ask that you do when you're building your dynasty mode and you're hiring guys. Realistically, you cannot upgrade. Even if you get to level 100, you cannot upgrade the entire freaking thing. So make sure you're doing that strategically. Final note, there are missions. I did mention this earlier, but if you purchase the price, let's say of a motivator, even if I have the money to purchase the architect, I cannot get anywhere in there because I need to spend 50 coaching points on motivator as well. Lincoln Riley's already won 4 rivalry games. We don't need to win anymore, but we do need to spend 50 in motivator, which we don't have unlocked. So if I do want to unlock, let's say architect, I would first need to go to motivator, spend the 60 points, and then spend an additional 50. Then I can unlock architect, or I can unlock talent developer. Both require the 50 in motivator. So that would probably be the next thing you would have to purchase if you really want a well-rounded coach, if you were going into Lincoln Riley. Another thing that you can do, guys, is you can now customize your coaches, and there is a lot of cool customization options. I would really take advantage of this stuff. The torso alone, like you see, he has a simple long sleeve and his iconic visor. But you can do a lot of different things. You can do the PJ Fleck vest and tie. That's a classic. Or you can do the simple just the tie. They got all the cool windbreakers that you see the common coaches on the sidelines wear. You got the no sleeve. You got short sleeve hoodies, things like that. So very cool. The lower body doesn't have a lot of cool options, but the upper body at least has some cool options. And there's a lot more customizations if you build your own coach. So I would highly recommend you guys do that and you start building all your coaches and swag them out and share them down below. Finally, before we jump into recruiter, final thing you can do before you set up every season is you got to take a look at your roster. After you take a look at your depth chart, you take a look at some of your best players. The next key thing that you should do is go and set up your auto subs and formation subs for the season. After you set up your red shirts, the guys that you want to, early freshmen that you want to develop, go in and set up your auto subs and your formation subs, because this is very key to the success that you will have. For example, quarterbacks, look at this. This is what Anthony Richardson should have read before he played for the Indianapolis Colts. Quarterbacks don't go out ever. You can set up your fatigue for your running backs if you have the wear and tear system on. By the way, before starting that early on, remember we talked about the wear and tear system. If you toggle that off, all of this doesn't count either. But if you do have wear and tear system on, then you can have an auto sub strategy based on how tired a player gets without having to, sub a guy that's in the red. Halfbacks will naturally go out when they're at like 70% wear and tear, and the guy that's at least at 80% is going to go in. Same thing for wide receivers, 70, 80. You can certainly keep them fresh, and you can see what the strategy is when it's custom in, custom out, you know, grind it out, what it looks like, 10 and 40, things like that. So you can go in here, toy with what you think is best, for a season-long strategy. I am very curious to see how this is going to work out in an online dynasty. I would really like to see someone really nerd out about this and make some content around that, but I sadly don't have a ton of friends, you know, don't have a ton of friends that play EA college football, so can't really nerd out about that. But if someone made this content, I would highly watch that content. Like, that would be so sick. Like, actually a team managing wear and tear to this. If someone managed it perfectly where their guys simply won just because they were more fresh than everybody else, would be so cool to watch. But go through, adjust your guys. I maybe don't agree with this offensive line one. I like offensive linemen should never go out either, but defensive linemen should be getting subbed out and staying fresh. Maybe it's an old school football thing in me, but that's what I think. So make sure you do that before you jump into recruiting. But before we jump into recruiting, guys, we're on the road to 5,000 subscribers, and we're very excited to give away a copy of EA College Football 26. If you went ahead and bought EA College Football 26, I would give away an equivalent in a gift card value. All you have to do is just be subscribed to the channel and comment oftenly on my videos, and I will be putting you in a chance to win. For this video, guys, comment down below which team will you be starting a dynasty with first. What team are you rebuilding first? For me, it's actually the team that we're covering right now. It's the USC Trojans, because let's be real, since Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, they have not been great. They've had a couple spark seasons here and there. I know it's a Power 5 program. I know it's easier to recruit there, but they need to win the Natty, and I need to bring them to that glory. Next, we're going to give you the very basics of recruiting, guys. I am going to make an entirely new recruiting guide, so please do not think that this was very bland. It's going to be very quick and to the point for beginners only. Cool new thing they added, prospect list. You go there and it tells you the team needs, and it's 0 out of 3 at quarterback, 0 out of 2 at halfback, 0 out of 4 at wide receiver, things like that. And as you go, you see the first guy, Stephon Kuntis, added. He already 1 out of 4 receivers, 2 out of 4 receivers, 3 out of 4 receivers, and then 4 out of 4 receivers. It turns white. We are recruiting enough. Tip: if you want to recruit a certain position, know your coach, what he's good at recruiting, and make sure you have enough of a position that you like to use and be successful with, so you don't get screwed, because the transfer portal is insane this year. Quarterbacks, we need 3 of them, so I added 1, added 2, and then let's see if we can find 1 more before we hop in, and I'll show you a little bit of recruiting. So now that our prospect board is set up, there's a couple things you can do. You can sort this very well, but also pay attention to the deal breakers. That's another tip I would add. Deal breakers, playing time, for example. There you go. This is a guy that his interest is first for USC, but at the end of the day, it's not even going to be worth recruiting because he's not going to want to come and play with us. I can't even offer him scholarship. So be very aware of what the deal breaker is. Either way, don't waste your time, trying to find a guy just to get him on a deal breaker. So to quickly remove a person, all you do is hold the top button, Y or triangle, and then you move on to the next guy. Then for scouting, Lincoln Riley is really good at scouting quarterbacks and scouting wide receivers. So he's not going to use as many scouting points for those kind of guys. So what I would recommend is that you scout some of those first, but maybe scout the guys that are not highly rated. If you're a Power 5 program, you should probably be spending most of your time recruiting 3 stars, because if you get a 4-star or a 5-star, whether they're a busted gem or not, they're still going to be pretty good because they're only 1-star rating below. If they come out a gem, that means they're playing a star rating above, which is crazy, but that's essentially the 4-1-1 on this. So look, he takes up 60% of scouting just with 10 usage, and then his abilities and his mentals. As you can see, guys, the bottom right is the development trait, and that can only be when you get the mind reader ability in the strategist archetype, which we do not have right now. So essentially, we cannot tell if a guy has a development trait or not, but we can see how many abilities he has, which is probably all you need to know for most of these guys. And as you can see there, we had a first busted gem, but Jay Ozumwa, okay, I get it. He's a busted gem. He's still a 5-star. You should still recruit him. Should you put it as much as importance if you got a 4-star with a gem? Probably not, but these guys are still good. So focus your time on recruiting. When you're recruiting, it's the 3 stars, or if you're really good, you're just focused on recruiting some of the best 4-stars. That's fine. We're gonna add more guys to our list until we get a gem that you can now tell if we're getting one or not. So we're gonna go in here, we're gonna scout this guy, and you can see Nick McCaskill is going to be a gem. So we'll add him to our board. He's a wide receiver, and he's also got 2 mental traits, abilities. I'm not sure what you call them. Physical abilities, mental abilities. I think that's what it's called. Yes, now I've got it. It was the abilities and the mentals was just throwing me off a little bit. Whatever. That is basically what you do. After that, after you go through, you scout your guys, you offer everybody a scholarship. Make sure you have enough for scholarships for everybody. everybody, especially when you set up your board. If a guy's a busted gem and you really want him out of there, that's fine. If you oversaturate on certain positions, that's fine. But at the same time, being oversaturated on position is sometimes not a problem because, again, transfer portal is brutal. Even if I feel very comfortable with an 87 Jordan Mailata right now, dude could bounce at the end of the season and that'd be screwed without a quarterback. So never put your cookies all in one basket, especially if you have the transfer portal open. I will be doing a more in-depth guide in the recruiting system, guys, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and I will give full breakdown on how to do this, how to sway, things like that when it comes to the season. Another thing, setting up your schedule. Make sure you set up your schedule appropriately, especially if you're a low-rated school. Don't walk in week 1 and play Alabama. Don't walk in week 2 and play Georgia. That's gonna kill you. This isn't real life. You do not need to set the stage. There is no weird college football playoff committee, even though there is some sort of AI generated one. Let's be real, those wins at the beginning of the season are not really gonna count for much. If you have a good record through the entire season, there's a very high likelihood you're going to make the college football playoff if you win your conference with a couple losses. So do not stress out about that. You do not need to add 1 or 2 more losses to your team, and no one's gonna take note that you played Alabama and you got your ass kicked. Sadly, there's no moral victories in this game, so make sure those don't get scheduled, especially if you're at a low-rated program. If you want to challenge yourself and you just want to have fun, do whatever the hell you want. If you want to win, especially in a difficulty that's challenging for you, do that. You can also just simply hit R and it'll regenerate your schedule and just randomly flop it, which is cool. You can also sim to any point in the season. You don't necessarily always have to sim to a halfway point or the end of the season like it was before, which is really cool. So if I want to go in here and I don't want to jump in until, let's say, week 7 with Michigan, I can literally go through and I can sim all the way up to week 7 because I know that's going to be our first real test. And if USC is 0-3 by then, I am going to be irate and the simming in this game is going to be ass. But that's another thing that I wanted to talk about as well. We got a recruiting upgrade. A lot of our guys didn't go with us because we didn't manually recruit them. It was set up on manually recruiting. A lot of guys want to transfer out, understandably so. You even had a guy that being the Big Ten Player of the Week. There it is. We are 3-1 going into Michigan. Another thing I want to say before we jump in is when you're jumping into a game, there is many types of game playing options. You can play a full game, you can play an offensive only, you can play a defensive only, and you can play the moments. I love playing the moments. The moments are actually probably some of my favorites, so then you can really truly encapsulate the program building thing with a little bit of gameplay without overlapping. And that's probably what I'm going to be using for most of my rebuilds, so I cannot wait to show you some of that content. So make sure you subscribe for that if you like watching rebuilds as well. Couple final things I wanted to talk about was one, the coaching carousel, which is insane. There's a lot of coaches bouncing around at the end of each season, so make sure you look out for that and you're hiring guys that fit your scheme and you're not getting fired, because that is a very, very dangerous game to play. Also, it's the transfer portal. At the end of each season, the transfer portal, we talked about it earlier, it's insane, absolutely insane this year. The default settings, everyone's transferring out. Connor Weigman seems to be living Texas A&M every single season. So regardless of how they do, I'm telling you guys, this is where it's at. Make sure you go after your guys and you get on people early and often. People will tell you when they will leave, so it's at least a good sign that if your guy jumps into the transfer portal, you can go and aggressively grab somebody early. For the key for that is offer scholarships and schedule visits as early as possible with the guys that you want on your team to fill up a spot. You are filling spots to make sure you have a full complete roster with guys that are going to play, by the way, not with guys that are going to sit on your bench. So make sure you're in there to fill actual gaps for guys that will be effective for your roster the following season. For example, Jordan Mailata decides to get up and leave. I am going after Connor Weigman right away, and I'm going after him aggressively. That means offering him scholarship right away and scheduling visits as quickly as you can, and making sure you're using your hard sells as quickly as possible as well. There are a little bit more of nuances in that, so make sure you subscribe to the channel because the recruiting guide is coming. And the final tip, boys, is just have fun with your dynasty. It's not life or death. Just enjoy the game. Set up the settings at the beginning. It's going to take a little bit, but make sure you have the right settings at the beginning to match your play style, and I'll be making a video on that as well. But make sure you make those, you set up those settings that are going to match your play style at the beginning, the wear and tear system, you know, the transfer portal stuff, the simming, the timing to get the stat numbers right that you like to see. All of these things have to be set up early on, and it might be a little bit of boring work at the front end, but to have a better experience throughout the entire time you have a dynasty mode, especially if you have a really, really long dynasty. So I hope that helped you guys. Don't forget to let me know down in the comments, who will you be rebuilding first? And remember, boys, nice guys finish first, and God bless. Peace.